There is something pretty huge missing, and there's something that's really muddied the waters. You've probably seen some of the videos already with a new transporter coming out of the shipping container. Well, this video is going to be bringing you a little bit more detail. I'm going to share with you some spec information, the powertrain and the engines that are going to be available to this new transporter. Let's first start with a video which you've probably already seen, and that's the teaser video. The teaser where it shows the Bully range. And in that range includes the new transporter, and yes, it looks very, very familiar. There was no big flashy unveiling, no flashing lights. I'm going to be bringing you the flashing lights on Sunday. That is a video you really want to see. Some really cool Christmas dubs, lots and lots of flashy lights, including some of my own. Now, the first part of this teaser video does show the ID Buzz, and I know a few converters are already looking at this to actually bring a campervan conversion to it. Some have already been successful, but others are finding the weight to be a little bit of a problem. The ID Buzz is already a heavy vehicle because obviously it's got the big batteries in there. So by the time you add the campervan components, your luggage and the people, the payload really isn't going to be an awful lot. And also the other issue which you've potentially got with a battery powered vehicle such as that is the range. How does all this extra equipment in a campervan affect that range? So the ID Buzz might not be the future of the campervan. The next vehicle which is shown coming out of these shipping containers is the Multivan, another van that has already been released. A van which is a passenger carrying vehicle built on the MQB platform. Now this vehicle comes in different engines, petrol, diesel and also a hybrid. It comes in a short wheelbase, no it doesn't, it comes in a short and a long, because the wheelbase is the same, but you've just got a bit of extra length at the rear to make that vehicle bigger. Now this vehicle is of great interest because this is the platform which VW have actually introduced the California concept. You might have seen my previous video on that, or if not, the plethora of information which is online about that vehicle. I personally really like it. The fact that it's a twin sliding vehicle, the twin slider for me is an appealing factor, and this is also going to be of great benefit to the Australian market because at the moment the California Ocean isn't available in Australia. So this then does open the doors, see what I did there, to the Australian market. This vehicle's packed with technology. It's got a lot of touchscreen, so you can actually control some of the vehicle controls by using the touchscreen panels, the heating systems and things like that. And I also like the fact that you can cook on gas and you can also cook on electric. So you've got different options there. I do personally really like it, as I've said, but some say that this is too small to be a campervan. There isn't very much storage, but that is where the transporter comes in. And for the first time in this very, very first video, we've actually got a glimpse of it. And yes, it does look very familiar. And that is because it is part of the Ford collaboration. The Volkswagen and Ford have collaborated to make several different vehicles, and the Transporter and the Ford Transit Custom are just another one of those vehicles. Therefore, it actually shares a lot, or is mostly, partly, possibly mostly, nearly everything with the Ford Transit Custom. The Ford Transit, which we've already seen, it can be ordered and in fact is actually already on the roads now. So this was the first glimpse, but now as of today we've seen more information. The official UK press release has come out from this vehicle and it gives us some, not all, information which is really very interesting. The configurator and the order book opens in Germany from the 14th of December, so you can be able to get on there and spec the vehicle. You're going to be able to see what options are available. I won't do another video on that because I'm sure you'd like to get on there yourselves, see what you can spec up, see what the approximate costs are going to be. But let's have a look at some of the information which we've got now. And we already know information that the vehicle's being built in Turkey at the same plant as the Ford Transit Custom. You're going to have the Ford line and then you're going to have the Volkswagen line. So if you do look at some of these specs which we're going to go into now, and obviously the appearance, it does look extremely similar to that of the Transit, and that includes the engines, the dimensions. It is very, very similar. You tell me. VW state that the load capacity is higher from 5.8 to 9 depending on the variant which you get. It's got higher payload, a max of 1.3 tons and a higher maximum trailer weight of 2.8 tons. They also mentioned that for the first time the Transporter is going to be available in diesel, hybrid and also fully electric. And there will also be 4Motion, that's sought after 4Motion, but we'll come on to that a little bit later on when we discuss the engines. design wise, it's quite difficult to see because it's got this camouflagey type design, but you can see that the front lower bumper, I personally think that it looks very similar to the current T6.1. The LED lights are going to feature front and rear, which are going to be standard. So yay, finally we can buy a Transporter and see as standard without buying any additional options or aftermarket parts. Shouldn't really be a positive feature. We should just have that as standard anyway, and now we have. That's not all that's standard though. You've got electric parking brake, so say goodbye to handbrake turns. Although we're not in the 90s, I don't really think that happens anymore. The kids of today just don't do that. It's got a 12-inch digital instrument cluster, an infotainment system with DAB+, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It's got online services and a 13-inch touchscreen display. With the size of the vehicle, which it is, that isn't going to look out of place. It's got the easily still recognisable steering wheel. Yeah, some will say it does look like Roland Rat. It's got rain sensors, lane keep assist, autonomous emergency braking, and dynamic road sign display with wrong way warning. Let's hope that we never need to use that. It's a vehicle with some big modernisation features, and some are going to be far more welcome than others. I do know that some of the lane keep assist and things like that isn't very popular, but personally the big touchscreen display and some of the other things I personally quite like. What do you think? Let me know. Like the electric handbrake, I mean, we've got the handbrake on the current T6 and T6.1 and the T5 before that, which is down by your left hand side when we're obviously in the UK. So to actually get rid of that and have just a button to be able to do it on, it frees up that space, which means that if you've got a swivel seat, it's going to be much easier to swivel on the Campervan version. Speaking of which, there is no mention of a Campervan in the literature. So this is the first big thing, which is really disappointing. Although we didn't really expect it to be in there, we did think that maybe, possibly, they might have reconsidered doing it on the Multivan and actually doing it on the Transporter, but as of yet, that doesn't appear to be the case. Surely this is going to change. I'm going to be talking about that in the future. But what bodies are mentioned? Well, there is a panel van. There's a panel van plus, which has got a second row of seats, a panel van with L partition, a Kombi, and a drop side long vehicle with double cab. And some of these are going to be available with a longer wheelbase, and also some available with the high top roof. But this next part for me is where it's really interesting and also a little bit confusing, because we were all led to believe that the Multivan was the Caravelle replacement. It actually says it on the Volkswagen website. Yet we are told a Caravelle, in brackets interior trim, is going to be available at a later date. So what does that mean? Caravelle in bracket interior trim, is it going to be a Caravelle, or is it just going to contain like a Caravelle type interior? I don't know, that's a little bit confusing, especially when the Multivan says it replaces the old Caravelle 6.1. I don't know, what do you think about that? I'm not entirely sure. Interestingly as well, there is no mention of T7, just that the new Transporter, being its successor to the current Transporter 6.1 and Caravelle 6.1 in 2025. So yeah, it does appear that we're going to be waiting to 2025, but there is no mention of T7. We're going to have to wait for future press releases to see how it is going to be described there. But something else we know about this new Transporter, it is going to be bigger, it is going to be longer. It's 146 millimeters longer and 128 millimeters wider. That's excluding the exterior mirrors. It's still going to be coming in at the 2-meter height limit, as long as you've not actually bought the high roof. So that'll still ensure we can get into those height restricted car parks, which as a daily driver, which I know quite a few of you still use yours for, then that is going to be very beneficial. And also some of the coastal car parks now, they're trying to keep out some of the bigger vehicles, so they've got the height limits in there. So being under 2 meters, you're still going to be able to get in there. It's slightly longer, as I've said. The short wheelbase is going to be 5,050 millimeters, whereas the long wheelbase is extended to 5,450 millimeters. What this all means is that the internal space is larger. A measurement which could perhaps make a difference is the distance between the two wheel housings, and that's a distance which has been now increased by 148 millimeters. And importantly, albeit we still don't know if it's going to be a campervan, the payload has also been increased for the TDI short wheelbase version, 1.3 tons. All going to help if we can convert it into a camper van. But more on that in a second. There are several improvements here which are going to help the camper van conversion market. A few positives, but there is also a few negatives. With VW not making the California in this platform, that could potentially pose a few problems, especially for the type approved converters, because I do know that some of these do use the standard Caravelle parts and also the standard VW parts, such as swivel seats and the air vent systems for the heating systems and other bits and pieces. But if Volkswagen are not going to be making a leisure vehicle, a California type vehicle for their platform, then that might mean that these parts aren't available, but they might be available for Ford. I guess we're going to have to see what Ford do with their conversion, and it'll also be interesting to see if a lot of these converters actually take on that Ford platform and start manufacturing on it. Because if they do, they're going to be getting a head start, because if the Ford is pretty much near identical to the Volkswagen, then if you've manufactured a conversion on the Ford, then it should be quite easy to transfer that to the Volkswagen. I'm certain that a lot of people are going to be getting the Fords to be able to develop a conversion ready for the Volkswagen. But why would you? Why wouldn't you just buy the Ford? It's out earlier. Ford have got a head start. They've got that head start. They can actually get going now. People can buy them now, get that conversion now. It's probably cheaper than the Volkswagen. So why wouldn't they do it? Well, I know, because residuals. But there's another question, isn't there? Because I know a lot of people don't particularly view this as being a true Volkswagen. They don't view it as being a Volkswagen Transporter. The heritage seems to be being pushed away. The T6.1 is the last Volkswagen product. All these years of Volkswagen making the Bully, the Campervan, those fantastic vehicles which has got a fantastic heritage. Have they said goodbye to all that? I don't know. We're going to talk about that more in the future. I've got a few people who are going to be coming on the channel and having a discussion about that. People who you haven't seen before. There are so many questions to be answered, so many things which we don't know, but something else which we do know is the engines. And yes, these are similar to what Ford have already released. There's going to be TDI engines, and the TDI will come with their various different power outputs. The 110 PS, 150 and 170. Then there will be a 235 PS plug-in hybrid. And after that, the electric, and we're going to have 4 different power options for that. We've got the 116, the 136, the 218 and the 286 PS. The TDI and the hybrid will be front wheel drive, with the electric being rear wheel drive, and the 4Motion will again be released for the diesel engines for the 150 PS and above. I'm keen to see what these different engines and drivetrains are going to be like, really keen to test them out myself. So I might actually pop down to a Ford dealership and I might wait until Volkswagen release theirs and go and test them out there. I may jest, but these are being built in the same factory. Production lines running parallel to each other, using the same parts. It's going to be really interesting to see when you actually delve underneath, deep inside each vehicle, to see how each product and each part is labelled. Ford, as I say, are going to have a big head start on this. So do you think that you're going to go out and want to buy one of these Ford Transits? Or are you going to wait for the Volkswagen to come out? Or are you going to stick for your actual, true, real, pure Volkswagen? I'd like to hear your comments. I know this is a really controversial vehicle, so do let me know in the comments. But if you're interested in camper vans and you want to see pure Volkswagen, the T6.1 range, then you can have a look at my video here. And don't forget to tune in on Sunday for a Christmas video, and also Christmas Eve for another Christmas video. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you soon.